You are sitting alone in an empty room. The door is closed. The silence is absolute, but you are not actually hearing silence. Right now, a voice is speaking. It is reading these exact words. It sounds just like you, yet it makes absolutely no sound. The room remains dead quiet. So, who is doing the talking? This is your inner monologue. It is a constant, invisible companion. It narrates your daily life. It judges your past mistakes. It practices arguments you will never have. You have lived with it since childhood. For most of modern history, humanity assumed this was universal. We thought 100% of people experienced this silent narrator. We were wrong, completely wrong. Recent psychological studies have revealed a startling statistic. Between 30 and 50% of the human population has no inner voice at all. None. Their minds are completely silent. When they read, they just absorb the information. When they think, they see raw concepts or floating images. They do not hear a ghost whispering in their skull. If you do not have a voice in your head, how do you even know you are thinking? This silent state of mind is neurologically classified as Anauralia. For those who possess a loud inner voice, this emptiness sounds terrifying. How do you plan your day without talking it through? How do you weigh a difficult choice? But for the silent thinkers, our noisy brains sound like absolute madness. They wonder how we can possibly stand the constant, unending chatter of our own making. Let us focus on that voice you are hearing right now. What is it physically made of? It feels like magic, but it is just biology. When you think in words, your brain sends hidden electrical signals down your nervous system. Your vocal cords actually microscopically contract. Your tongue twitches in the dark. Your larynx shifts. This physical phenomenon is called subvocalization. You are literally speaking to yourself, but your brain intercepts the signal before the breath can turn it into physical sound. Your body is silently pantomiming speech. Why would evolution build such a bizarre, energy-draining mechanism? To understand that, we have to look backwards. Far backwards. Did ancient humans hear this same voice? If you were alive 3,000 years ago, your brain might have been wired very differently. In the 1970s, psychologist Julian Jaynes proposed a deeply unsettling theory. It is known as the bicameral mind. Jaynes argued that ancient humans had no modern concept of an internal self. Their brain hemispheres were strongly divided. The right hemisphere generated thoughts and problem-solving strategies, but the left hemisphere received these thoughts as literal auditory hallucinations. When an ancient farmer faced a crisis, he did not ponder a solution. He physically heard a booming voice in his head telling him what to do. He did not recognize this voice as his own. How could he? The concept of a private inner self did not exist yet, so he assumed it was a king, a dead ancestor, or a god. When you hear a command inside your own skull, and you believe it belongs to a divine entity, what do? You obey. You build monuments. You start wars. Early human civilizations may have been built entirely on the misunderstood echoes of our own neurology. As human society grew incredibly complex around 1000 BC, something inside us broke. The invention of written language forced our brains to adapt rapidly. The strict walls between our brain hemispheres began to dissolve. The booming, external voices of the ancient gods slowly faded into a whisper. They were replaced by something much quieter. You. The modern inner monologue was born as a psychological survival tool. We learned to simulate reality inside our own heads before actually acting it out. We became the masters of our own silent universe. But what happens when this highly delicate system breaks down? If your brain controls the voice, why can you not simply command it to stop? Try it. Try to force absolute silence in your mind for just 10 seconds. It is nearly impossible. The narrator always creeps back in. For millions of people, this lack of control is not just annoying, it is a clinical nightmare. When the brain's self-recognition software glitches, it stops tagging your internal thoughts as your own. This is the root of auditory hallucinations and conditions like schizophrenia, which currently affects 1 in 300 people worldwide. The brain still produces an inner voice, but the tiny neural signature that says, "I made this," is suddenly deleted. Your own thoughts instantly sound like a hostile intruder. It is a terrifying, involuntary return to the ancient, divided mind. Even if your brain functions perfectly, your silent roommate is rarely your best friend. In fact, for many of us, it is a relentless, vicious critic. Neurological studies show that natural inner speech is overwhelmingly negative for roughly 60% of the population. It fixates on past failures. It forces you to replay socially embarrassing memories at 3 a.m. Why would our own biology actively choose to torture us? It is a matter of pure survival. In the brutal wilderness of our past, a single mistake meant certain death. If you ate a poisonous root, you needed to remember that agonizing pain vividly. Your inner critic is not trying to make you depressed. It is an ancient biological alarm system. It screams at you about minor social embarrassments today because 50,000 years ago, being exiled from the tribe meant freezing alone in the dark. Your modern anxiety is just primal biology desperately trying to keep you alive. But as technology accelerates, our invisible companion is changing once again. We are rapidly outsourcing our memories and thoughts to glass screens. We type out our feelings before we fully articulate them in our own heads. The deep silence is slowly returning. Some cognitive scientists believe that our heavy daily internet usage is currently rewiring the inner monologue. It is making the voice shorter, faster, highly fragmented. The way you think today is not the way your grandfather thought, and it is not the way your grandchildren will think. So, pay very close attention to that silent narrator currently echoing inside your skull. Listen to it carefully. It is not magic. It is not a soul. It is simply the evolutionary ghost of your ancient ancestors, frantically talking to themselves in the dark, trying to figure out how to survive. And one day, it might disappear entirely.